It's been over 3 decades since we first met Hyacinth Bucket and her hilariously chaotic world. But time flies, and so do the years. In today's video, we'll be looking at the 1990 cast then and now in 2024. How have our favorite actors aged? Spoiler alert, the years haven't been kind. So let's get started and see how the cast of Keeping Up Appearances has changed over the years. Clive Swift as Richard. Richard Bucket is a fictional character portrayed by the late Clive Swift in the British comedy TV series Keeping Up Appearances, which aired from 1990 to 1995. He is the calm, patient, and long-suffering husband of the socially ambitious Hyacinth Bucket, who insists their surname is pronounced Bouquet. Unlike Hyacinth, Richard is satisfied with a normal life and has no desire to mingle with the aristocracy. Swift appeared as Snug in the Royal Shakespeare Company's 1968 film production of A Midsummer Night's Dream, alongside a cast that included Diana Rigg, Helen Mirren, and Ian Richardson. During the 1970s, he played Dr. Black in 2 of the BBC's M.R. James adaptations, The Stalls of Barchester and A Warning to the Curious, as well as in the BBC adaptation of The Barchester Chronicles. Swift made 2 appearances in Doctor Who, in the 1985 story Revelation of the Daleks and the 2007 Christmas special. Around the time of his second appearance, he gave a grumpy interview to Doctor Who magazine, complaining about not getting paid to promote his episode and belittling the show. He also portrayed Sir Ector, the adoptive father of King Arthur, in John Boorman's 1981 film Excalibur. In addition to acting, Swift was a songwriter. Many of his songs were featured in his shows Richard Bucket Overflows, An Audience with Clive Swift, which toured the UK in 2007, and Clive Swift Entertains, in which he performed his own music and lyrics touring the UK in 2009. He also played the Reverend Eustachius Brewer in Born and Bred, which aired on BBC One from 2002 to 2005. His final performance was in an episode of Midsummer Murders in 2017, after which he retired. Swift was married to novelist Margaret Drabble from 1960 until their divorce in 1975. He was the father of 1 daughter, Rebecca, who passed away in April 2017, known for running the literary consultancy in London, and 2 sons, Adam Swift, an academic, and Joe Swift, a garden designer, journalist, and television presenter. Clive Swift died at home on February 1, 2019, at the age of 82, following a short illness. Judy Cornwell as Daisy. Daisy, née Walton, is a fictional character in the British sitcom Keeping Up Appearances, played by actress Judy Cornwell. Daisy is the lower-class sister of the socially ambitious Hyacinth Bucket. She lives with her lazy husband, Onslow, their last name is never revealed, her flirtatious sister Rose, and their senile father. Cornwell's father was in the RAF, and she grew up in Britain, attending a convent school with Penelope Keith. She later attended St. Michael Boarding School in Heacham, Norfolk, before moving to Australia with her family. She has recounted her childhood experiences in her autobiography, Adventures of a Jelly Baby. Returning to Britain, Cornwell became a professional dancer and comedian in her teens, performing at Durjati Chowdhury's Irving Theatre Club in London. Cornwell's film roles include Santa Claus the Movie as Anya Claus and Mad Cows. On television, she has appeared in Dixon of Dock Green, Cakes and Ale, Bergerac, Doctor Who, the serial Paradise Towers, Farrington of the F.O., The Famous Five, The Bill, Heartbeat, The Royal, Miss Marple, Midsummer Murders, and The Devil's Lieutenant. She also played Queenie Trott in the BBC soap opera EastEnders, the tyrannical mother of Heather Trott. In 1987, she portrayed the English spinster Rosemary Tuttle in the Rumpole of the Bailey episode Rumpole and the Official Secret. Cornwell's books include her autobiography, Adventures of a Jelly Baby, ISBN 0283-070013, published in 2005, which details her childhood in Britain during the war and her family's emigration to Australia. She has also published several novels, including Cow and Cow Parsley, 1985, Fish Cakes at the Ritz, 1989, The Seventh Sunrise, 1994, and Fear and Favor, 1996. Cornwell married John Kelsall Parry on December 18, 1960, and they have one son. The couple resides in Brighton, where Parry was a reporter for the Argus. Mary Miller as Rose. Rose Walton is a fictional character in the British sitcom Keeping Up Appearances. She is portrayed by two actresses, the late Shirley Stelfox in the first series and the late Mary Miller from the second series onward. Rose is the more attractive, albeit aging, sister of the social climbing snob Hyacinth Bucket, and is described by Emmet as the one with the friendly legs. Miller made her television debut in 1953 at the age of 17 in Those Were the Days. She also appeared on The Dick Emery Show and The Stanley Baxter Show. In 1960, Miller traveled to New York to study Julie Andrews in Camelot. Her West End career began in 1962 when she played Cloris in Lock Up Your Daughters. In 1969, she starred in the title role of the musical Anne Veronica, based on H.G. Wells' novel. In 1986, Miller originated the role of Madame Giry in Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical The Phantom of the Opera. She performed the role for 4 years, and her voice is featured on the original cast album. From 1997 to 1998, Miller played Mrs. Potts in the London production of Beauty and the Beast, and appeared on the cast album composed by Alan Menken with lyrics by Howard Ashman and Tim Rice. In February 1998, Miller left the show due to declining health. Miller had one daughter, Lucy, born in 1972, from her marriage to Raphael D. Frame in 1962. She was a practicing Christian. In January 1998, Miller was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and underwent chemotherapy. She passed away on November 10, 1998, at the age of 62, in Brockley, London, with her husband and daughter by her side. She was cremated at Golders Green Crematorium. 3 weeks before her death, when asked what she would do when she arrived at heaven's door, Miller responded, "Rehearse for a part in the angelic choir, darling." An episode of Keeping Up Appearances was broadcast on BBC One the following week and dedicated to her. Geoffrey Hughes as Onslow. Onslow is a fictional character in the British 1990s comedy series Keeping Up Appearances, portrayed by the late Geoffrey Hughes. Onslow is a lower-class relative of the social climbing snob, Hyacinth Bucket. He is married to Hyacinth's sister, Daisy, and their surname is never mentioned. In 1974, Hughes was cast as Binman Eddie Yates in the long-running soap opera Coronation Street. Over the next 9 years, he became, alongside Stan Ogden, played by Bernard Ewens, a foil to Stan's long-suffering wife Hilda, Jean Alexander. He left the series in 1983, but made a brief return appearance in 1987 as part of Hilda's departure from the show. Among his many other television appearances are An Arrow for Little Audrey, The Saint, Shadows of Fear, Z-Cars, Randall and Hopkirk, Deceased, Flying Lady, Making Out, Coasting, Doctor Who, Spender, and Boone. He played Trinculo in a version of The Tempest for the BBC and Squire Clodpole in Good Friday, 1663, one of Channel 4's avant-garde operas. His comedy appearances on TV include The Likely Lads, Please Sir, Dad's Army, Curry and Chips, No, Honestly, and The Upper Hand. In 2007, he performed as the Angel Gabriel in the BBC production Liverpool Nativity. From 2007, he also appeared as Uncle Keith in the first 3 series of the E4 drama Skins. In 2009, he played Frank in Tim Firth's Absolutely Frank at the Oldham Coliseum Theatre and the Harrogate Theatre. Hughes married Susan Mundell in 1975. His offstage interests included sailing, football, golf, cricket, rock music, trees, and beer. He was also the honorary squire of the Dartington Morris men and made an appearance at the Dartington Morris Ring meeting in September 2008. His musical interests included British folk rock, and he competed at Fairport's Cropredy Convention annual music festival several times. He passed away on 27th of July 2012 at the age of 68. Doctors stated that he died peacefully in his sleep. Josephine Tewson as Elizabeth. Liz is a warm, patient character who sympathizes with the challenges Richard Bucket faces living with his neighbor. She often gets invited over for coffee by Hyacinth. But knowing Hyacinth's obsession with a spotless home, Liz becomes nervous and frequently spills and drops things, especially Hyacinth's prized Royal Doulton cups with the hand-painted periwinkles, much to Hyacinth's distress. Tewson began her acting career on the London stage in the 1950s and remained active in theater throughout her professional life. She appeared on television in the 1960s with semi-regular roles in shows like Z Cars, The Dick Emery Show, and The Charlie Drake Show. She was a regular comedy performer in sketches on David Frost on Sunday and Hark at Barker, 1969 to 1970. She later appeared in Mostly Monkhouse, a BBC radio comedy with David Jason and Bob Monkhouse. During the 1970s, she had notable roles in comedy sitcoms including 6 Dates with Barker, Copper's End, 1971, and 1977's Odd Man Out with John Inman playing his half-sibling. She co-starred in No Appointment Necessary with Roy Kinnear. Unfortunately, the tapes of this show have been lost or destroyed. Tewson played Edna Hawkins, usually referred to as Mrs. H by Shelley, in the first 6 series of the British sitcom Shelley, 1979-82. Later, she played Jane Travers in Ronnie Barker's last starring television role before his retirement, the sitcom Clarence, 1988, which he wrote. Tewson married actor Leonard Rossiter in 1958, but they divorced in 1961. She later married dental surgeon Henry Newman in 1972, who passed away in 1980. Tewson died at Denville Hall, a retirement home in London for actors and other entertainment professionals, on August 18, 2022, at the age of 91. Jeremy Gittins as Michael the Vicar. The Vicar, whose first name is Michael, is a prominent supporting character in the British comedy Keeping Up Appearances. He is a tall, attractive man in his mid to late 30s and is generally pleasant, empathetic, and dedicated to his parishioners. However, Hyacinth Bucket's overbearing attitude and relentless attempts to be seen as his most esteemed parishioner leave him constantly wary of her, especially when she pressures him into attending her numerous social events. Michael is married and clearly devoted to his wife, yet he often finds himself in unwanted and compromising situations with Hyacinth's flirtatious sister Rose or other attractive women. This sometimes leads to misunderstandings and wrongful accusations from his wife, who occasionally jumps to conclusions. Despite these incidents, they seem to be a happy couple. Both Michael and his wife share a mutual dislike for Hyacinth, referring to her as the Bucket Woman. Clive Swift has appeared in many popular British sitcoms and leading television programs. He has acted in Doctor Who alongside the Fourth Doctor Tom Baker and Lalla Ward, Tenko, Boone, A Touch of Frost, New Tricks, EastEnders, as John Charrington, Doctors, and more recently, he starred in Footballers' Wives in 2005. In addition to keeping up appearances, he has also appeared in several other sitcoms, including Fresh Fields, Terry and June, Andy Capp, Blackadder Goes Forth, and The Upper Hand. David Griffin as Emmet. Emmet Peter Hawksworth is a fictional character in the British comedy series Keeping Up Appearances, portrayed by actor David Griffin. Introduced at the beginning of the second series, Emmet is Elizabeth Warden's brother. After a messy divorce, he moves in with her, becoming a neighbor to the social climbing snob Hyacinth Bucket and a regular fixture in the series. Griffin's first screen role was in the 1960 film A French Mistress. He soon followed with roles such as Ricketts in The Fifth Form at St. Dominic's, 1961, David Ashton in Outbreak of Murder, 1962, and Mark Dennison in Quick Before They Catch Us, 1966, becoming popular and familiar with viewers. Griffin appeared in the blockbuster film Battle of Britain, 1969, as Sergeant Pilot Chris and featured in popular television series like Dixon of Dock Green, 1968 and 1974, and Z-Cars, 1970. His other television appearances include a guest role in an episode of Doctor Who, The Sea Devils, Allo Allo, Emmerdale Farm, and 2 episodes of Ripping Yarns. After Keeping Up Appearances, ended in 1995, Griffin toured worldwide with Sue Pollard in the stage show The Good Sex Guide. He also starred in several pantomimes, including Jack and the Beanstalk, among others, Marion Baron as the vicar's wife. The vicar's wife is married to Michael, the vicar of the parish attended by Hyacinth and most other characters. Her name is never mentioned, though the vicar affectionately calls her dear in a few episodes. She is a young, pleasant, and attractive woman in her mid-30s, first appearing in Series 1, Episode 2, The New Vicar. Like her husband and many other characters in the series, she dislikes Hyacinth and tries to avoid her. When Hyacinth is not around, both she and her husband refer to her as the Bucket Woman. Unlike her husband, who, like Emmet, is frightened of Hyacinth, she does not seem to fear her. Although she and Michael have a happy relationship, she sometimes appears uncertain about his faithfulness. Occasionally, she finds him in seemingly compromising, yet innocent situations with other women. Marion Baron was born on March 28, 1958, in British Nigeria and grew up in Dumfries, Scotland. Baron's first screen credit was as a hotel receptionist in the successful sitcom Don't Wait Up, starring Nigel Havers, Tony Britton, and Dinah Sheridan, produced and directed by Harold Snowd. She has also appeared in Screen 2 and The Bill. Baron is married to Simon Fuller, and they have 2 children. Shirley Stelfox as Rose. She was the first actress to play Hyacinth Bucket's flirtatious sister Rose in the initial series of Keeping Up Appearances, but was later replaced by Mary Miller. After attending the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, Stelfox began her career at the BBC in a play called The Case Before You, where she portrayed a 15-year-old arsonist and dealt with an unresponsive prompter during her long pauses. In December 1960, she made her debut appearance on Coronation Street. Stelfox played the mother of Julie Walters and Victoria Wood in the TV film Pat and Margaret, 1994. However, her most notable film role was as the 2.0 prostitute in 1984, a film adaptation of George Orwell's novel, starring John Hurt and Richard Burton. She was somewhat typecast as a prostitute, playing another in Terry Jones's comedy Personal Services, 1987, based on the life of Madame Sin, a brothel owner who entertained celebrities and politicians. On the West End stage, Stelfox portrayed Sue Lawson in Not Now, Darling, Strand Theatre, 1968, and Phoebe in Toad of Toad Hall, Duke of York's Theatre, 1970. She appeared as a stand-up comedian in Stand Up Sweetie Pie, directed by June Brown, premiering in 1993 at the Nottingham Playhouse. She played the spidery Regan in King Lear at the Ludlow Festival in 1972, and at the Connaught Theatre, she portrayed Lady Macbeth in 1973, Titania in A Midsummer Night's Dream in 1978, and Yelena in Uncle Vanya in 1974. Stelfox was married to Keith Edmondson for 3 years and had a daughter, Helena, from this marriage. She later married actor Don Henderson in 1979, remaining with him until his death from throat cancer in 1997. They resided in Stratford-upon-Avon, where she helped raise Henderson's 2 children from his first marriage. After Henderson's death, she moved to rural Nottinghamshire. Stelfox passed away on December 7, 2015, at the age of 74, 4 weeks after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. George Webb as Daddy. Daddy Lionel is a fictional character from the British sitcom Keeping Up Appearances. He is the father of Hyacinth, Rose, Daisy, and Violet. Although he is frequently mentioned and discussed, he rarely appears on screen. He is remembered for driving Hyacinth to school when she was 15 years old and is referenced throughout the series up to the final episode, The Pageant. He is married to Mrs. Walton, who is never shown, and has 4 daughters and 2 grandchildren. Daddy is first mentioned in the episode titled Daddy's Accident. He often becomes involved in situations that deeply embarrass Hyacinth, but are amusing to Onslow, who refers to him as a dirty old man. Hyacinth frequently tries to disguise Daddy's mishaps as acts of bravery or as issues related to his declining health. Daddy's real-life counterpart, Henry Augustus Webb, 1880–1926, was born at 41 St. Luke's Road, Paddington, London, to parents Gertrude, née Bolingbroke, and Henry Augustus Webb. He had 2 younger siblings, Dennis Alfred, 1913–1918, who tragically died after being struck by a military vehicle at age 5 while picking flowers, and Joan, 1915–1989, who died by suicide after enduring years of ill health. From his father's previous marriage, Webb was the half-brother of actors Rita and Harry Webb. Webb passed away on December 30, 1998, at the age of 86 from natural causes. Peter Cellier as the Major. Major Wilton Smythe, commonly known simply as the Major, appears only in the first 2 series of Keeping Up Appearances. Despite being married to a wife he refers to as the Ball and Chain, whom is never shown on screen, he is hopelessly infatuated with Hyacinth. The Major is a World War II veteran, having served in the British North African campaign against Erwin Rommel. Cellier began his acting career at the Leatherhead Theatre in 1953. His extensive theatre work includes seasons at Stratford-on-Avon, the Old Vic, and the Chichester Festival Theatre, and he was a founding member of the National Theatre. His Shakespearean roles have included parts in Hamlet, The Merchant of Venice, Othello, Love's Labour's Lost, Measure for Measure, As You Like It, King John, Julius Caesar, Cymbeline, and Henry V, where he portrayed the Dauphin. On television, Cellier's career spans a wide array of programs from 1955 onward. He has appeared in detective series like Softly, and Bergerac, adventure series such as Doctor Who, and historical dramas including The 6 Wives of Henry VIII, Upstairs, Downstairs, and The Duchess of Duke Street. He also featured in John Mortimer's Rumpole of the Bailey and Paradise Postponed. In the Two Minister series, Cellier played Sir Frank Gordon, the permanent secretary to H.M. Treasury, engaging in urbane competition with Nigel Hawthorne's Sir Humphrey Appleby within the civil service. He portrayed Roy Difford in the Casualty episode The Silence of Friends and the judge in BBC4's Canoe Man, 2010, which dramatized the John Darwin disappearance case. Charmian May as Counselor Mrs. Nugent. Mrs. Nugent, often referred to by Hyacinth as Counselor Mrs. Nugent or Mrs. Counselor Nugent, is an acquaintance of the Bucket family. She is depicted as a conservative, prudish, and stern individual. Despite her unappealing demeanor, Hyacinth tolerates her in an effort to advance her own social status by gaining a position on Mrs. Nugent's committee. She had a role in the film Bridget Jones's Diary and appeared as Miss Pershaw in episodes 6 and 7 of The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin, 1976. Her other television roles include Miss Pentangle in The Worst Witch, Professor Alicia Thunderblast in Weird Sister College, and Miss Milton in the Yorkshire television series You're Only Young Twice. On stage, May was part of the original cast of 84, Charing Cross Road at Salisbury Playhouse, and its West End transfer in 1981. She also toured in the 1970s with a production of Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, playing Lady Bracknell. May passed away from cancer on October 24, 2002, at the age of 65. A Thanksgiving service for her life was held at St. Paul's, Covent Garden on May 23, 2003. David Jansen as Michael the Postman. Doesn't Hyacinth place a considerable amount of pressure on the poor service workers who visit her home? The original Postman, portrayed by Leo Dolan, appeared in 2 episodes. Another postman, played by Robert Packham, is featured in a single episode. The most frequent postman is named Michael, played by David Jansen. Jansen gained prominence for his role as Jimmy Harker in the 1960s British soap opera The Newcomers. He later starred in the sitcom Get Some In. Jansen also succeeded Richard Gibson as the Gestapo officer Herr Otto Flick in the final series of the BBC sitcom Allo Allo in 1992, after having portrayed Adolf Hitler's double in an episode of Series 8. His extensive television credits include roles in Softly, Softly, Doomwatch, Jason King, Dixon of Dock Green, Z-Cars, Brushstrokes, Teabag Strikes Again, Ever-Decreasing Circles, The Upper Hand, and Don't Rock the Boat. In 2019, Jansen directed the stage production Hormonal Housewives. He was married to actress Debbie Arnold, known for playing April Branning in the BBC One soap opera EastEnders in 1996. They were married for 13 years before divorcing in 2002. They have 2 daughters, including Ciara Jansen, who is an actress in Hollyoaks. The couple also worked together on the Streamline English as a foreign language video series, with Jansen portraying Kevin Smith and Arnold as his wife Sharon Smith, Gretchen Franklin as Daddy's fiancée. Gretchen Franklin portrayed Daddy's fiancée in the series. Her career breakthrough occurred during World War II when she was cast in Sweet and Low, the first of a series of highly successful West End revues staged at the New Ambassadors Theatre, which starred Hermione Gingold. Franklin and Gingold became close friends and reunited in another revue, Slings and Arrows, at the Comedy Theatre in 1948. Franklin also appeared in several BBC productions and on stage. One of her most notable stage roles was as Mrs. Roper in the 1958 play Verdict by Agatha Christie. Produced by Peter Saunders and directed by Charles Hickman, the play ran for 250 performances. In 1965, Franklin performed in Spring and Port Wine in the West End and was cast as the first Mrs. Alf Garnett in the pilot episode of Till Death Us Do Part, starring Warren Mitchell. However, she was unable to leave her stage role to join the series permanently. Franklin recommended her friend Dandy Nichols for the role, who then took her place in the series. Franklin and Nichols made cameo appearances in Richard Lester's films Help, 1965, and How I Won the War, 1967, which featured John Lennon. Franklin was married to writer John Caswell Garth, who was also the business manager of the Wilson Barrett Acting Company and a part-time actor from 1934 until his death from cancer in 1953 at the age of 50. Franklin, then 42, did not remarry and they had no children. She passed away at her home in Barnes on July 11, 2005, just 4 days after her 94th birthday. Jean Anderson as Mrs. Fortescue. Jean Anderson portrayed Mrs. Fortescue in the series. In 1934, she joined the Cambridge Festival Theatre, performing in The Circle by Somerset Maugham and Yahoo by Lord Longford. The following year, she played Lady Macbeth with the Seagull Players in Leeds. By 1936, she was with Lord Longford's company from the Gate Theatre, Dublin, performing at the Westminster Theatre in London. Anderson appeared in Ah Wilderness and remained with the company for the rest of their season, including roles in Carmilla, The Moon in the Yellow River, and Youth Season. Upon returning to London in 1940, Anderson joined the Players Theatre Club, a popular refuge from the war. When director Leonard Sachs was called into service, Anderson took over the club's management and kept it running throughout the war. After the war, her acting career continued with productions such as 1066 and All That, Don Juan in Hell, The Apple Cart, and The Moon in the Yellow River with Jack Hawkins. During this time, her focus shifted towards television and film. However, she remained active on stage with notable performances in productions like Pirandello's 6 Characters, In Search of an Author directed by Dame Ngaio Marsh, Hedda Gabler, an all-star Uncle Vanya at Hampstead Theatre, and Les Liaisons Dangereuses with Alan Rickman and the Royal Shakespeare Company in both London and Broadway. Her final stage performance was in Terence Rattigan's Harlequinade in 1988. Anderson's television debut came in Weep for the Cyclops on the BBC in 1947. She also played the role of the mother in The Railway Children in two BBC adaptations in 1951 and 1957, and reprised her role in The Moon in the Yellow River on the BBC in 1953. Her last television appearance was in Keeping Mum in 1998 on the BBC, Patricia Routledge as Hyacinth. Hyacinth Bucket, née Walton, who insists her surname is pronounced Bouquet, is the central character in the BBC sitcom Keeping Up Appearances. She is portrayed by Patricia Routledge and by Carrie Howard in the special episode Young Hyacinth, which aired in 2016. Routledge has had a distinguished career in theater, especially in musical theater, both in the UK and the US. Her vocal range was classified as both mezzo-soprano and contralto. She has been a prominent member of the Royal Shakespeare Company, RSC, appearing in notable productions such as the 1984 Richard III, starring Anthony Sher. Her West End credits include Little Mary Sunshine, Cowardy Custard, Virtue in Danger, Noises Off, The Importance of Being Earnest, and The Solid Gold Cadillac, among others. In 2016, Routledge hosted Beatrix Potter with Patricia Routledge on Channel 4, marking the 150th anniversary of Beatrix Potter's birth. In January 2023, Channel 5 aired a 67-minute special retrospective on Keeping Up Appearances as part of their 30 Years of Laughs series. The documentary, featuring interviews with Routledge, who was 93 at the time, along with supporting cast members Judy Cornwell, Jeremy Gittins, and David Jansen, paid tribute to the show. Routledge has never married and has no children. Since 2000, she has resided in Chichester, where she regularly attends Chichester Cathedral. In 2020, she contributed $10,000 to the restoration of the cathedral roof. Routledge is a patron of the Beatrix Potter Society and an ambassador for the Royal Voluntary Service, formerly known as WRVS. She was a close friend of former Speaker of the House of Commons Betty Boothroyd, and her recording of Climb Every Mountain was played at Boothroyd's funeral in March 2023. We hope you enjoyed this look back at the Keeping Up Appearances cast. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more nostalgic content. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our latest uploads. Also, let us know in the comments which cast member surprised you the most, or if there's another classic show you'd like us to revisit. We love hearing from you. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, keep up appearances with a smile.